Hi there, it's Bert from Mantic Moments. I'm going to be doing something a little bit different today. I'll be doing a battle report which was played on universalbattle.com. I was recently introduced to Universal Battle by a friend of mine who I've been playing online, and I found that it's actually quite good for playing Kings of War. I was pretty impressed with how easy it was to learn. So I decided to sign up for a league. Now, I signed up to the league a little bit late, so I'm not sure if I'm going to get every game in, but this is the first one, and let's get right into it. In this game, I'm battling against someone who is part of the League of Rhordia. Rhordia? The League of Rhordia. Rhordia. Okay. And I am using a Ratkin army, which is based around the Skaven army I already have, and for the most part based on units I have. So starting from left to right with his deployment, we have a unit of Halfling Ranger Cavalry, a Duke on Ancient Winged Arles, and keep in mind that his inspiring characters all have very inspiring. Next there is a unit of Halfling Knights with the Potion of the Caterpillar. Next, an Honor Guard Horde. I think these are the ones with the Pipes of Terror. He had one with Blessings of the Gods, one with Pipes of Terror. Then there's two Halfling Howitzers in that forest, along with, and this is really hard to see, a Halfling Master Engineer right in the middle of them. Then there's the second Honor Guard with, I believe, Blessings of the Gods, a standard bearer behind the second unit of Halfling Ranger Cavalry, then a unit of Halfling Scouts, a unit of Elohai, and a unit of Halfling Ranger Cavalry again. So I believe he actually designed all of these units, which I thought looked really cool. So on my side, starting from the left, I have a horde of slaves, and behind it a mutant rat fiend. Then I have a unit of Hackpaw troops, and behind them I have a warlock with Bane Chant and the Inspiring Talisman. So that's the warlock with the white glow. Next I have a horde of warriors with spears, essentially clan rats with spears. Behind that I have a unit of claw shots at the very back. Then I have a death engine, which is either a screaming bell or a doom wheel, I think. Then I have a unit of warriors, regiment. Next to them I have a horde of blight, basically plague monks. And between those two units I have a swarm crier, or BSB, with Kevinar's flying hammer. Then I have a brutes horde, and between the brutes horde and the blight you can see my next warlock, and he just has Bane Chant, and he's the one with the red. Then my last swarm crier is behind those brutes too, and he has a kind of a prod, and that's with a healing charm. So he is inspiring and healing. Then I have a Vermintide unit just tipping that forest, and behind that two weapons teams, both with the Storm of Lead Piercing 1 upgrade. And at the very end I have another troop of Hackpaws. Okay, that's the setup, and the scenario for the league is Pillage, and we rolled, as you can see, 5 markers. These 5 stars are objectives that you need to be within 3 inches of at the end of the game, and of course individuals cannot hold objectives. So moving into first turn now, before I do the first turn, you're going to see a lot more stuff on the board here. Starting from the very top left, those are his damage markers and his wavering markers. Then over to the right you see a blue template with 3 on it. We usually place that on the unit that we're targeting with shooting, just so it's easier to see which one's been attacked. At the bottom of the screen you can see some yellow X's, red X's and blue X's. The yellow X's represent 1 damage on my units, the red 5 and the blue 10 damage. So as you can see, he just moves up a little bit with most of his units kind of edging cautiously. And keep in mind that he has 3 light cav units with shooting, scouts with shooting, and 2 howitzers. So over on the right, his scouts managed to do 3 damage to my Hackpaws and waver them. Then over on my brutes I took 2 damage from his Halfling Scouts and Halfling Ranger Cavalry, and over on the far left my Hackpaws also took damage from his Halfling Ranger Cavalry. Both of his howitzers missed this turn. So onto my turn, I'm a little bit cautious with my Hackpaws that aren't wavered, and with everything else I move up. I want to be out of range of his worst stuff, and I want to be able to flank charge if they charge in. And if you look over on the right, my Vermintide moved fully into the forest. They've moved just enough so that they can be charged by the Elohai, but not the Halfling Ranger Cavalry. And I'm hoping he takes the bait there, because then I'm going to shoot the crap out of him. Slightly towards my center, you can see that I'm having issues with my Death Engine, getting stuck on that impassable rock formation. So onto my shooting. With my claw shots I start on his honor guard and do 3 damage, which is actually quite impressive. And then I do 1 damage on the Halfling Ranger Cavalry with my warlock with the red glow. and would you believe it, that actually wavers them. My Healing Swarm Crier takes 2 damage off the wavered hack paws. So onto his turn, he edges forward slightly, trying to get all his cavalry into charge range of me without me being able to charge him, of course. Then his howitzers target my Death Engine and do 3 damage. And then his Halfling Scouts target my brutes and do another 2 damage. I'd gotten rid of 1 from regeneration. And over on the right, he manages to do 3 more damage to my hack paws. And then over on the left, he really wants to get rid of my other hack paws, and he bumps up the damage by another 3 to 6. And that means that both hack paw units are wavered at this point. I think it's a little bit lucky in a way that I managed to just have them wavered, even though you have to keep in mind they're both in inspiring range. So on my turn, I just say, you know what, screw it. I'm just going to move up as much as I can because I need to get in range with my secondary units, and hopefully this way I'll be able to do some counter charges. So over on the left, I move my slaves past the forest so that they can be charged by the 3 leftmost units, but nothing else. Then my spears come into range of his honor guard. My Death Engine just generally comes up onto that objective because I just wasn't able to get it around that rock formation easily. So hopefully, maybe not next turn, but the turn after, it'll be able to get some charges off. Then you can see my Blight being pushed right in their face, and it being flanked by 2 units that I'm hoping to get flank charges with. Over on the right, he doesn't charge my Vermintide, so I moved him a little bit further forward so that his Alohi will be tempted, and just keep my weapons teams right tightly behind them so he can't land and charge them. I decide to abandon my Hackpaw units at this point, hoping he'll ignore them next turn, and maybe I'll be able to do something with them the turn after. Then, if you just look in the very bottom left, I have my Mutant Rat Fiend just in the back of that forest. Now the reason he's there is he's angled so that if the Duke on the Ancient Winged Arles charges the slaves, or tries to jump behind the slaves, or tries to charge really anything, he will be able to countercharge it. I was really worried about getting flyers behind my units, which is why I kept him back. Then with my claw shots, I do another couple of points of damage to his honor guard. I believe actually this is with the help of the warlock with inspiring that you can see there. And I do an additional 3 damage to the halfling ranger cav with my warlock on the right with the red globe. And that means that they're wavered. My brutes got another point of damage back, and that wasn't actually from regeneration, that was from me putting healing on them with my Swarm Crier. So, onto his turn. As you can expect, lots of charges. He charges his Duke, Halfling Knights, and 1 Honor Guard unit into my Clan Rats with Spears. He charges the 2nd Honor Guard unit into my Warrior unit. He charges the Alohi into the Vermintide. Yay! And he moves up with his shooters to be able to target some of my weaker units. As you can see over on the left, he targets my Hackpaws again with those Ranger Cavalry, and he does an additional 3 damage. His howitzers target my Death Engine again, and now I'm on 6 damage there. And then with the 2nd howitzer, he actually does even more damage, and I'm up to 13 damage on the Death Engine. Shoot. On the other hand, his last 2 shooters on the right do basically nothing, and I'm fine on that flank. Unfortunately, I obviously rout the Hackpaws on the left, and I rout the Death Engine as well, but I would have loved it if I could have charged one of those Honor Guard units. So on to his combat phase. His Honor Guard in the center managed to do 16 damage. These guys are nuts. 16 damage to my warriors. That obviously routs them, and he reforms to face the flank of my Blight Horde and also my Warlock with the red globe. On the right with the Alohi, he does 6 damage to the Vermintide, and this routs them and he reforms, as you can see. So on to the main combat. Honor Guard, who are able to do about 13 damage by themselves, plus Halfling Knights, plus a Duke on some flying thing with 7 attacks, and he manages to do 19 damage. So I need a pretty low roll to stick around. And yeah, of course I'm gone. Now I don't have a picture of this, but he overruns with the Duke and I think the Honor Guard. And onto my turn. I get my Mutant Rat Fiend into his Duke in the flank. That is the most important thing. Keeping in mind, the Duke is not individual. I charge my slaves into his Halfling Rangers. I feel like I messed up with the Blight. They should have been angled so that if he went in with the Honor Guard on the other unit, I'd be able to countercharge. I don't know why I didn't think he would charge them, and so I just went forward and charged into the other Halfling Rangers. Then my Brutes went into his Halfling Scouts, and my Hackpaws, which managed to take no damage, have gone into his Halfling Rangers on the far right. With everything else, well, it's really mostly characters, so I'm just trying to move them into positions where they can't get charged. So you can see that my standard bearer has gone between the two hordes. He could be charged by his standard bearer, but I doubt it. And all of my weapons teams and Swarm Crier and so on have moved out of range of his Elohai. So on to shooting. Both of my weapons teams managed to do 5 damage to the Elohai, which is fantastic. My warlocks on the left do a couple of points of damage to the halfling knights. I'm not sure why I did this. I think I was worried about the flank charge into the slaves, but I don't know why I was worried, because they're slaves. My claw shots also shoot the halfling knights. I didn't do way too much damage, but I rolled a 5 and a 6 for nerve, which makes it 17, which was just about enough to get rid of them. My Swarm Crier heals a couple of points on the hack paws, and my brutes healed a bit from regeneration. On to combat. On the left I do a couple of points of damage to the ranger cavalry with my slaves and waver them. Then the mutant rat fiend combat. He does 10 damage, and that wipes him out, and I overrun going towards the honor guard. I can't believe it. The blight unit obviously wipe out the already damaged halfling rangers, and the brutes do 4 damage and destroy the halfling scouts too. I reform like this, which was actually a mistake in the long run, as you'll see. And I do 3 damage over here on the right with my hack paws. On his turn, he's mostly maneuvering for better positioning. He only actually has 1 charge, and that's his right honor guard horde into my blight horde. His Elohai are working towards my claw shots. His other units mostly move back or reposition so that they can target me. I had honestly expected his halfling rangers on the right to charge into my hack paws, but whatever. And into shooting, his howitzer on the left targets my mutant rat fiend and misses, and the one on the right targets my battle standard bearer and misses. So that's really it. On the right he shoots my hack paws. I think we both forgot the unit was disordered, and he manages to get 6 damage and wavers them. Maybe I'm forgetting and something else did that damage, but I really can't see it right now. So on to his only combat, and he does 12 points of damage to my blight unit. So pretty good considering they have -1 to hit. But that's it, and then it's on to my turn. So starting on the left, the slaves charge into his halfling rangers again, my mutant rat fiend charge his horde of honor guard, and my blights charge back into the other honor guard. And you can see where I made my mistake, because now the brutes are stuck behind the blight unit. And this is because of the angle that they were at, the angle that the blight were at, and also the house, which is impassable terrain. What I should have done was overrun with them in my last turn so that they were slightly past the blight unit, and then I should have just brought them round the other side and the back of the board. They might not have gotten into combat sooner, but they would have been able to threaten his howitzers at the least. Down in the bottom, slightly to the right, I move my weapons teams over to attack his Elohai and do 5 damage, and I believe that my warlock with the red globe does 3 damage to his BSB. The claw shots can't see anything to shoot at, but the warlock on the right with the white globe shoots one of the howitzers and manages to waver it, which is fantastic. My Swarm Crier with healing fails to do anything, so the shooting on the Elohai takes them out, and it's on to combat. My slaves manage only 2 more points of damage on his halfling rangers. My mutant rat fiend does 4 damage, bringing them up to 8, and I think that was a fairly unlikely waiver. And my blight unit managed just 2 damage on his other honor guard. I'm not sure what the stats for that are. It seemed like I was rolling kind of badly, but if you're paying attention so far in this game, you'll notice that I've wavered him a fair few times. Admittedly, usually weak units, but this is a big advantage to get wavering rather than getting a higher result and then he just re-rolls it. And also, my hack paws did survive for a bit longer than they should have, considering they have fairly low nerve. Onto his turn, this time he decides to charge his halfling rangers into my slaves. He obviously countercharges with both of the honor guard units, and he also charges my hack paws on the right with his other halfling rangers that are still alive. So those hack paws have 4 damage right now, and look at this, they have 2 more damage, so that's 6 points of damage, and he still doesn't rout them, he only wavers them. And over on the left he does 2 damage to the slaves, they don't care, and on the important combats he does an additional 11 damage to my blight. This is not a good exchange. He did 12 damage, I did 2, he does 11 damage. Obviously the blight are destroyed with that amount of damage, and he reforms like that. On my turn, I just charge back in again. I've gone in with the slaves, I've gone in with the mutant rat fiend, and I've gone in with the brutes. Other movement are all small units, so my claw shots at this point are not really doing any damage to anyone, so just move them to the right. Maybe they'll shoot something, but I'd be happy with them just moving towards an objective. One weapon team takes a character to the left to take on his standard bearer, the other weapon team goes to the right to take on his rangers to keep wavering my hack paws. My warlock on the left, which has inspiring, moves into range of the mutant rat fiend, and lastly my BSB moves into a position where he can keep giving inspiring to the brutes. So, shooting. My weapons team on the right does 5 damage to his halfling rangers. So they're probably going to go. Then my healer actually manages to take 2 damage off the hack paws, which must be really frustrating him at this point. They've just been healed almost every turn. So this turn I also remember about Bane Chant. A chant is something musical, so I have little musical notes because I cast Bane Chant on both my brutes and my mutant rat fiend. My weapons team targets his BSB and does 5 damage, and my Swarm Crier with the Flying Hammer attacks him too, but does nothing. And obviously his Halfling Rangers disappear, as does his BSB. Now that his BSB is gone before combat, I think he's in a really tough position. Having no Inspiring for those 2 units could turn it, especially with the really wild dice rolling we're having that's up and down for rolling nerve tests. Of course, first of all, I should show my slaves destroyed the last Halfling Ranger unit, and they're going to move in towards that objective to claim it. Then I only do 3 damage with my mutant rat fiend onto his honor guard, but it was enough to waver them again, and that is crucial. And then I do 5 damage to his other honor guard and waver them, again pretty crucial. And this means his turn has like no movement, and on shooting he targets my BSB, does 1 point of damage and wavers it. I really felt he should have gotten more out of that. That was a little unfair, really. So onto my turn, and again, I need to be claiming objectives. So I move my hack paws on the far right towards the objective there. I move my slaves directly on top of the objective on the far left. Apparently a weapons team is able to hold an objective, so he takes that one to the right of the rocks. And if he isn't, please let me know. But I still have 2 objectives that are basically his, and I'm trying to get them before the end of the game. So my warlock on the left shoots at his second howitzer. I don't know why I went for the second one, and I do manage to waver it, and I Bane Chant my brutes on the right again. I didn't do the mutant rat fiend because I felt like he wasn't doing anything. So on to my combat, and he does 3 damage, which is useful because it wipes them out, and they kill them. The Bane Chant definitely helped me take them out, and that's the end of those honor guard. So obviously I overrun. Things are pretty dire for him at this point. He isn't able to shoot with the howitzer on the right. I believe the one on the left misses. And that's it. He just needs to hold that one objective, and then it's my turn. And obviously I charge in. I move the mutant rat fiend to take that objective there. On the right, the hack paws finally land on the objective on the right. And now my brutes are in combat with the howitzer. And it may seem like overkill, but this is the last turn. And I feel I need to take out both of those howitzers so that I can have that objective. So I charge my BSB into the one on the left. I was hoping the 3 attacks in combat would do more than 5 lightning bolts from a warlock. And yes, I actually Bane Chant him because I really want those 3 attacks to kill that howitzer on the left. And just for fun, I do some healing over here with my hack paws. And incredibly, they are now on full health. They've taken over the course of this game, I don't know, 10, 12 damage. Their route value is 11. So yeah. So the final combat. Obviously I destroyed a howitzer on the right. The one on the left takes no damage whatsoever from my Bane Chanted Swarm Crier. I'm not sure. It wasn't the right choice. I shouldn't have charged him in. So we go to total everything up. I'm thinking I've got 4 objectives. He's contesting 1. But then we actually look at it and measure it, and he is just out of range of that objective. So I actually have all of the objectives. I couldn't believe it. I have to say, I did have a good bit of luck. If I shot with the lightning bolt or the claw shots, I was getting 3 hits, sometimes 4. I was also quite lucky rolling a lot of waivers rather than routes that were then re-rolled or low numbers. I mean, that was a kind of a magic combination to waiver him so often. Overall, I'd say that I definitely wouldn't have had such a total victory if it wasn't for my luck in the game. I definitely had better luck than him. On to what I actually learned. So first of all, I took the hack paws, the cavalry for Ratkin, just because I wanted to try them out. I wanted to try a bit of every unit. I couldn't believe how much he targeted them. When we were talking about the game afterwards, he said he was really afraid of them. And I didn't really know why. I mean, they do have a fantastic threat range, but for their points, I wasn't quite getting their use. But, you know, they definitely pulled their weight in this game. The slaves, putting them on one flank and just rolling up and taking on one flanker, I kind of love the idea of it. In practice, it took me 3 turns to kill that really small unit, and I don't know if that's the right use of them. Also, my mutant rat fiend, I would say man of the match, but then, to be honest, I had a few man of the matches here. You know, my swarm crier with the healing did quite a bit of healing throughout the entire game. My weapons teams took out an Alohi regiment almost single-handedly. My claw shots, as I said, were hitting fairly frequently. But going back to the mutant rat fiend, he charges in the flank of the Duke and wipes him out in 1 turn. My Blight Horde I thought would have more of an effect on the game. My Death Engine, I don't really regret the fact that it died the way it did, but I didn't use it well. My Brutes, you know, they did really well at the end there, but they could have actually been threatening him even sooner if they'd overrun. I have so many units, it was kind of difficult to angle things correctly, especially in the mid-game. And lastly, my Spear Warriors. I'm not sure why I gave them flanks. I need to think about it. They removed the Thunderous Charge from those 3 charges, but it was 3 charges. And if I was to take a smaller unit so only one of them could charge, or only 2, then I think they would probably die from whatever charged them then. So I really need to think about how they're usable in the game. Overall, incredibly happy with how the Ratkin have performed. That's this battle report. If you want to see more, subscribe, share it with your friends, all that kind of stuff. You can follow me on Twitter, and that's @ManticMoments, all one word. It's just like the YouTube channel. And let me know what you thought in the comments. Thank you.